think I set it to a minute. 1 hour. That's good enough.
Welcome to the REI Diamond interview. This is a special REI Diamond interview because we're here in person. Often I don't get the opportunity to sit with the successful people that I have the chance to interview in person, so this is a pretty cool one for me. I'm here with Howard Greenberg. Howard's been a friend of mine and a business associate for 7, 8, 9 years, something like that, huh? Ever since the day I walked into your office. So why don't you let everybody know a little bit about what you're about, Howard, and kind of what you do.
Okay. Hi, my name's Howard Greenberg. I'm a real estate broker. My company is HG Realty Services. I'm located in Northeast Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I've been licensed since 1988, full-time since 1999. Been an agent and broker for the last 18 years, full-time. I manage right now 60 apartments and a few houses and a shopping center. And I mainly work with real estate investors and wholesalers like Dan. My early part of my career, I did a lot of REO brokering. Basically, I worked for banks and asset managers just in my local area, did a lot of broker price opinions, made that a full-time business in itself, doing broker price opinions back in the day. I've also bought at sheriff sales, learned from other investors how to clear title, and then I did some rehabbing, and when I opened my office in Roxborough, that's where I met Dan. Me and Dan did wholesale deals together, and we did some rehabbing together. I was rehabbing when short sales were the thing to do. We bought short sales and then we would rehab them and sell them. Being a broker was really nice because I was able to list the properties and get them sold after we fixed them up and sold them,
Speaking of short sales, so this is like circa 2015 for posterity's sake.
Right. Well, I'm going back to the late 80s, well, probably early 90s into the 2000s.
So the short sale market has changed, just so that we can kind of give a perspective.
Well, yeah, the short sale market back then, when the market it was like before it really turned, there was a lot of short sales starting to really go, and then when the market really took a downfall, that's all there was short sales. At that time, before the market crashed back in 2002, 3, 4, I was rehabbing, and I was starting to buy short sales with another wholesaler and short sale negotiator, and I had a small team rehab crew, and we would buy them as short sales and then fix them and resell them before the market crashed. When the market crashed, I had probably half a dozen properties in the various stages of rehabbing and were on the market, and probably owed close to $1 million out on the street. And my only goal at that point in time was really to get out without losing money. I mean, we all go into the real estate investing to make money, and we always look at the profit side, but it's rare that we look at it like we're going into a deal and are going to lose money. Nobody looks at that as much because we all expect things to stay the same or get better in the market. Prices certainly came up in the last few years, and rehabbing is back, wholesaling is bigger than ever, real estate is where it's at. And that's why both of our businesses are doing very well for now. But going back in those days, I was making a full-time living just doing broker price opinions. I was doing 6 figures a year with a small team of 4 of us. Most of them were family members. And when I had a restaurant, I also had some access to some of the guys who wanted to make a few quick dollars, and it was easy to send them out with sheets and a system to be my eyes as well. But you know, I was out taking 30 photos a day, coming back at home, doing reports. We were doing 50 to 80 broker price opinions a week, and without slowing down. Eventually that market kind of dried up a bit when more competition got in. Other realtors realized they weren't able to sell properties so easily, list and sell them, so they looked into getting involved in doing broker price opinions. And really what that is, it's a glorified comparable market analysis. 3 actives, three solds, you upload them into the internet, upload your photos, and do a little report, as is value. If you had to do an interior, it was we would give repaired information, what the properties needed to be repaired. And the gravy of that, the offset, was getting the REO listing, which occasionally I would get. So I would have a bunch of listings, but I basically did it for the BPO money. The BPO money was good at the time, and then as more and more agents found out about it, and it was marketed through the internet that this is what you could do to make a good hourly rate, and some other agents who were thinking entrepreneurially decided to hire other people to help them at a low hourly rate to do the inputting. The pricing came down from $50 to $75, $100 a report, all the way down to $20 and $25, $30 a report. At that kind of money, with the price of gas going up and wear and tear on a car, and they only a certain amount of hours in a day, it became less and less profitable. I've been out of that business for well over probably 12 years. But I was able to expand into other areas of the real estate business. I still do a lot of listings and sales that are retail oriented. You know, get a referral for a seller, a referral for a buyer, and put a deal together. I still do that. I don't do it as much because basically what we came here to talk about today is, you know, our relationship and how we work well together. Because as a real estate broker who has a good understanding of real estate investment, I decided to gear towards working with real estate investors and wholesalers, and that's where my main focus of the market is today. I do not rehab like I used to. I help my existing buyers and sellers just find more property and sell their property.
Let me ask you a couple questions here. Like,
sure.
One of the big things to understand about what I do. So I write the REI Diamonds newsletter, I create the interviews, I invite successful people here. But first and foremost, I mean, what it was for me, ever since I was a little kid, my dream was to buy old houses, fix them up, and resell them on the market. That's it. I just wanted to flip property. And in 2010, when the market was jammed up, could barely make my living at that point in time, and I remember stepping back from, you know, wholesaling or thinking of myself as a wholesaler, trying to do those deals, and refocusing all my efforts to fixing and flipping property. And that was it. I was dead set on fixing and flipping property. And then to find some of those opportunities, I had to supplement some of the marketing expenses and things of that nature by wholesaling a few deals. So first and foremost, I'm a fix and flip investor, and that's my function in the market, is to buy a property, fix the property up, and then create something that somebody can live in. We sell everything retail as part of my Diamond Equity Investments business model. And I think one of the biggest reasons that you and I get along is because you came from the investor background. You know, your father was building houses, you actually bought, fixed, and sold property. You were in the middle of 4 or 5 rehabs when I walked into your office and we met. So for me, you know, in the function as like a wholesaler or an investor, to come and approach a real estate agent or broker like yourself, it was important for me to understand, or notice for that matter, and I guess luck had something to do with it, that you happen to be fixing property up, you happen to be managing rental property, you happen to already deal with the REOs. I mean, you were doing all the things that the perfect real estate agent or real estate broker would be doing for an investor client like myself. So coming from the same background, when I went out, I took the seminars, Get Rich in Real Estate Fast, you know, No Money Down, kind of read Robert Allen's book and all those other things that all the investors do when we get started. And I remember I would try to develop relationships with real estate agents. I didn't know any better. So I'm running around, and it was like any person I ran into who was like getting their license or who was already licensed, and I would get set up on automatic searches, and I was wondering why I was spinning my wheels. I didn't seem to be able to get anywhere. So I'm like an ideal client for a lot of agents because I'm an investor. I don't make many myself off of the offers on the MLS. I don't buy a lot of property that's listed with agents. But take me or take another one of the high volume guys. I mean, who would be like one of your high volume clients that would be a good investor?
I'd rather not say, because
you don't have to say
could have the
name.
local market
Yeah.
and whatever. But let me kind of give you an idea from my perspective and how I think why we get along and jive so well, and something to think about. First of all, any of you out there that are real estate agents or brokers, these are some of the things to consider that I'm putting out on the table. Okay, one. A real estate agent or broker should not be general. You can't be everything to everybody. So I suggest that you find that niche, that one thing that you really like and like to do. If you like to work with, high-end clients, over $500,000 properties, and I know agents that won't touch anything under certain dollar values, and that's fine. Okay, the commissions are big. My commissions in dealing with low-end are smaller. However, that's not to say I don't make it up in volume, okay? So pick a niche. If it's working with high-end, if it's working with the average ordinary, cookie cutter house, row home, certain, if you work with, you may want to work with seniors. If you're older, you could relate. I like to work with people I relate to, and it really would help if you have background knowledge for the client that you want to work with. Like, I feel that I had to go find the ideal type of customers for me. The ideal customer for me is obviously investors that buy over and over and over again. And it's something to consider. I don't have a lot of clients. I have a few large clients that buy a lot of property, an insatiable appetite for property, okay? They're not buying one this week and one next week, although there's nothing wrong with selling 50 houses a year, okay? But the type of client that you may want to consider if you can handle it, because it's work, okay? It doesn't get handed to you. You have to work for it. It's a type of customer that could give you 15, 20 houses in a month to sell, okay? Or to buy for them, to help them buy and find, okay? So my combination is this. I help investors who have all cash, quick close, and have all the ideal characteristics, we'll get into that in a minute, and buy multiple deals, okay, on one hand. And then I have sellers, and my ideal seller is not the investor that wants to buy, hold, or necessarily buy, fix, and sell, although I have a few rehabbers that I work with that just buy, fix, and sell. My bigger clients are the buy, fix, and hold. They're long-term investors, okay? And they're the insatiable ones that will buy anything in their criteria, okay? And knowing that customer helps me find them those properties. As far as sellers in this business, I like working with wholesalers. And the reason for that is it's simple. They have property to sell. They have their buyer list. Dan has a large buyer list, but on top of that, by working with me, we expose that to the entire market. But there's one little catch to that, okay? And that would be, Dan doesn't want to spend he wants to spend his time finding more deals and selling his deals. A lot of real estate agents don't understand the wholesale process. So what we'll do is we'll list them on the multiple listing service and expose it to agents that have buyers in certain areas that want certain type of property that Dan would never be exposed to, okay? And I get to earn a commission, but also I get the ability to explain how a wholesale deal works, because they are a little bit more, they're different than than a traditional deal when you're dealing with a buyer and seller. If you don't, it's not like we don't have enough time for us to sit and explain the technicalities of it, but I highly suggest, you can buy Dan's course on wholesaling, or there's plenty of, real estate investing courses that are being sold on the internet. But
I mean, you can hit Bigger Pockets. BiggerPockets.com is a great free resource for plenty of articles and plenty of takes throughout the country.
But understanding the technical part is one that's just just some knowledge that you would need to acquire. I happen to know wholesaling because I was doing wholesaling back in the day too, when Dan, in a different sort of way, Dan introduced me to the way that a typical wholesaler does it. I was doing something slightly different, but similar. And I never really got involved until, in the way it's traditionally done, till I met Dan, and Dan showed it to me. And I knew about it, but I was too busy with my other businesses to really spend the time to get involved. I kind of learned when I was working with Dan. So there are a lot of benefits for a real estate agent or a broker to work with both buy and hold investors, okay, because they'll insatiably buy property, especially if you know their criteria, okay. I wrote down a little bit of characteristics before we came here. I took some notes on what we were going to cover, and I wrote a few things down. Can't remember everything, but they buy multiple deals, whereas a typical retail buyer will only buy maybe one every couple of years, and you can keep marketing to them, and yes, eventually they'll list, and maybe they'll list with you and do it that way. But investors will buy multiple deals. They only care about the numbers. They typically, a really good ideal customer is someone who knows where they want to buy. And I'll give you a small example. I have a very small brokerage. It's only me, my brother-in-law, and a couple other agents. My brother-in-law happens to be one of the busiest agents in the city because he works with a very, very large client. He knows every block in the city where that investor will buy. What he'll buy, what he won't buy. What he'll pay in price, what he won't pay in price. Okay, and some of the areas of the city are large, so it takes a while to understand and build to that. But he knows exactly what that client wants.
Is that his only client? Is he pretty much specialized in working specifically for this large client? Because I know who you're talking about.
Right, because we both work with that person as well. We've done deals with them. And it is not his only client. Because here's another thing to consider. When you're working with a large buyer, such as my brother-in-law works exclusively for this one buyer, that's his number one client, okay? So if you're that large investor, you would love to have an agent who brings you 80% of your deals. The other 20% are bought by, he buys from wholesalers, just like Dan. Yes, he has other investors. Why? Because there's many a times that he'll find a great property, that person may not want to pay what the market rate or what somebody else, like another agent, might outbid him on that particular property. It's a hot property. So yeah, if he brings it to his VIP buyer first, and then it's not quite, for whatever reason, it's not perfect for him, yes, he has a few others that are large investors to go give him a call and say, hey, get over and see that property. It just makes sense. If you're a wholesaler, you're not going to have one buyer on your list. You're going to have as many potential buyers as you can. Some are going to buy multiple deals, 10, 20, 30 deals a year from you, if you're a good wholesaler. Mm-hmm. But you're always going to have that onesie, twosie guy, the guy that just wants the one, and then maybe in a couple of months another one. You're still going to market to that person, but who are you going to call first? You're going to call, if it fits under the criteria of that buyer, you're going to call him first.
Yeah, I like to refer to them as my VIP buyers because I know where they buy, I know they're easy to deal with, they know the process of a wholesale deal, so they're kind of my VIP buyers. They get a phone call before it goes out to the buyers.
And the other thing is, in most cases, and you don't have to go to this extent, but it's something to keep in the back of your mind. Okay, usually a good real estate investor that has an insatiable appetite in buying up, the city, And he'll run out there and he'll see that property. He'll see 5 or 10 if you send them there. However, usually they're also very busy and can't always get to them. My brother-in-law provides additional services, and so do I to my out-of-town multiple buying whole clients. What we do is we'll go into the property as soon as they hit the market, or as soon as we find out about them. They're not always on the MLS. Okay, another reason why I like working with wholesalers is I do get off-market deals that the average agent who does work with investors won't find out about, that I could bring to my client. We go in there and we take pictures of the property. We take detailed notes. We know how much it costs to rehab a property. So when we come back with that information, we email the pictures, email the amount of work that it takes to that client. It's sort of like doing the CMA without having to write it all up in multiple papers and send it in.
Yeah,
so
and I think it's key too. You're talking about something so simple as photos, yet I can't tell you, once, twice a week, I'm getting somebody who calls me up or they send me this detailed email and they're trying to describe what work is needed in the property, and I ask, okay, send me over some photos. Well, I just didn't take the photos. It's like something so simple.
We take photos of every room, all the damages.
How do you send them by email? What do you do? What's the exact process? Google Drive, Dropbox?
Well,
how do you send 35 pictures to somebody?
How do you send 35? This is how I do it. I don't recommend you use your phone because it's just too difficult. In a pinch, if he needed a picture, I could take something and email it or text it. What I do is I take a digital camera that has a card on it. I take all my photos. I label my sheets. Like, I'll go out with a detailed sheet on the property, go out to the property, make my notes, label it number 1. It's a very simple process because I might be seeing 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 that day.
Okay.
And then I go back to my office. I have a laptop and a large screen, and I, pop the little card into my computer, and my computer recognizes that it's some type of storage disk. And then I copy all the photos from the disk into folders, one for each property. I label the property folders. So although I may have taken a couple hundred photos, because every property you may have 50 photos a property, it's not uncommon. Maybe you don't need as many. It depends on the property.
I mean, more is always better, though.
More is always better. You could always delete, and it takes just a fraction of a second to snap photos. Preferably one that you have a auto flash on, and and then because you're going to go into basements where you always bring a flashlight. I always have a flashlight on me, and it's big, so you don't want to carry a little itty bitty flashlight when you're in the inner city. Okay.
So flashlight,
digital camera,
gun.
No.
Sometimes.
There's many times I've thought about it and would have felt more comfortable, but no. I do recommend, if you don't feel comfortable in the area you're at, call somebody, let them know where you're at, what property.
Have you ever had anything crazy happen?
I've texted people, I'm at this property at this time. If you don't hear from me in the nenext 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
I've gotten these calls before.
Yes,
from Howard.
Yeah. Well, it does happen, because, like I said, I mean, some people feel comfortable in certain areas, some people don't feel that comfortable. Okay, my buyers, they love the areas. Okay?
So have you had anything crazy ever happen in the house? Is there any funny stories? You run into a bum in the closet or something like that?
Well, no, but I have had one of my mentors and good friend, he did go into, he's where I learned the sheriff sales. He went into a property one day and he fell through the floor into the basement. And he's a big guy. He fortunately, luckily, had his phone on him, was able to call for help. So you never know what you're walking into. So you always have to be careful, and you always need to have your phone, and preferably have somebody with you. But you can't have somebody with you all the time,
Yeah.
So I take my photos, I get them on the disk, I put them into different folders on my computer, I label them, I then zip the folders. So you right click and then you go to send to zip file. It creates a zip file, and then I could then go to my email, and I always use a major email. I'm a Hotmail guy. And, I'm so crazy with the Hotmail that I have it backed up to my Gmail in case for some reason Hotmail is not working. You know, back in the day, occasionally Hotmail would go out. Well, what do? I send everything to my Gmail account. Simple. Okay, so if I can't log into Hotmail, I got my Gmail, but in either case, I go in, I type out an email, here's such and such a property, photos, send it to my client. My client looks at them, and he'll make an offer just from photos. He doesn't have to go into the property because he knows what he wants, he knows where he's buying, he knows what the house, the condition is, and he knows what he's willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
All the things I don't have to convince anybody of as a realtor.
So I work with a lot of people, and I make offers based on the photos also. And the way that has been working the best for us lately, I actually had an issue where I'll put 20, 25 photos into the zip file, and then the zip file is too large for Google to send. And then it tells me to send it using Google Drive. So I prefer that when somebody's sending me the photos now, they load up 25, 30. I have one guy in Chicago that sends 100, 150 photos for each property. And it feels like I am in the living room of the property going through these photos, but he loads them all into a Dropbox file and sends me a link that I can look at the photos, and then anybody with the link can also look at the photos.
Okay.
So if I have to send it to one buyer, I can send a link, I can send a link here, I can even upload that to one of my web pages, and anybody can now look at
Exactly, and here's another trick for you too. I mean, it's just offbeat here, you know, we're just kind of diving a little off in the direction. I have a client, that the same client that I took photos for, he happened to be out of the country at the time, and he couldn't access his email and his zip file. He couldn't open it up. You know, maybe he tried to open it from his phone, I don't know. But he said, I can't see them. And, you know, with properties, you got to make decisions quickly. He wanted them. I'm saying, how the heck am I going to be able to get him photos? And I said, you know what, I got a great idea. I have extra Facebook business pages that
Nice.
I rarely use, right? You ever have that page that you just stop using?
Yeah, you thought it was going to be this great idea.
Right,
and
that's
it's
a great
not.
idea, and all these people are going to come, and then nobody comes, or what. Well, anyway, I literally did that. I uploaded all the photos into a Facebook fan page. I told him to like the page, and as soon as he liked the page, boom, all the photos show up. And he was looking at it from his phone, because everybody who has a smartphone with the little Facebook app hits their Facebook. He's sending pictures of all these exotic things, and you know, it clicked that I should just send them right through Facebook, and I did, and he got them, and he was able to make the determinations he needed to on a property while he was literally halfway around the world somewhere at a different time zone, but instantly for us to communicate.
Nice.
So you just think a little out of the box creatively, and you know, to get the job done. But the point I was trying to make is, this is an extra service that we don't even charge for. Do you know that my brother-in-law, in working with a lot of REO agents for his client in order to get these properties from other agents, offers the other agents, hey, you got a bank-owned property, I know you got to do monthly marketing reports, I know you need to know the latest status of the property. He'll not only take the pictures for his client, he'll send them to the listing agent. Why? The listing agent has to do reports.
Wow.
And he doesn't charge him, he does it as a favor. Why? Does that help him not get that? Does that REO agent think, well, this buyer's agent not only wants to, many people are sending me offers, why should I deal directly with just him? You think he gets maybe a little consideration for a little something that I didn't ask for, but I definitely need, because, I mean, some of the REO agents, they're not located near the properties that, you know, they could be half an hour away, their office, from these properties.
Or more.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah, one was very far, because I had to take a check one day from the downtown office all the way out. Like, it took me forever to get through 76 with all the construction. It literally took me from 8:30 in the morning till almost 11 o'clock to drop off a check, okay? Which is another thing. I would always get my investors now to send overnight bank checks for deposits, okay? If you're buying a property...
This is on REO or on every deal?
Definitely REO, number one.
Mm-hmm.
In an order list. Number two would be private deals, Because a private seller and that agent isn't going to be as up your butt as an REO agent needing it to show their, in order to just to,
Asset managers.
Yeah, and you know, it's back to real estate 101. An offer has to be in writing, correct? Right? It can't be a verbal. There's no verbal agreement when it comes to real estate. It doesn't hold any weight.
To lock it up, the deal, you mean?
And what locks up the deal is the actual check. You know, we send photocopies of checks that says, hey, we got the deposit, but the actual physical check delivered is all the difference in the world. And if the client is sending them regular mail because they want to save, just pay 49 cents for a stamp, right? Instead of spending $8, $10, $20 to get it overnighted to that office so that it's accepted, that's what consummates the deal. I mean, for a real estate investor to lose a $20,000 profit on a deal over $20 doesn't make sense, okay? So I get them to overnight it.
Have you ever had them lose a deal?
Absolutely. That's how we learned.
Yeah,
we learned, here's what happened. Deal was signed even.
Wow.
But no deposit was received yet. Another offer comes in. Broker says, take the deal that has the deposit. Sorry. It was a higher offer too that came in that they took. Slightly higher, but we were there first. But if we would have only had the deposit check, that offer, the higher offer wouldn't, from somebody else, wouldn't have had a chance to get accepted. It would have already been a sold and done deal. So yes, I tell my investors emphatically that does it make sense to lose 20 grand? I'm using that hypothetically, but it's not far off. Okay, it could be a little lower, it could be a little more. Over the difference of 49 cents to $20? Really, you're going to lose a deal for $20, Dan? You're going to lose 20 grand over $20?
No.
No, but you don't think about it. But you don't think about these things. It's my job to think about them. I'm providing service to my client, making sure they get the property and make their money. That's my service. Okay? So,
I mean, you do that for me. You provide like a ton of service. Can you give me some examples of like
well,
what you do for me?
Yeah, let's switch out of mode. So this was just an idea to get your thoughts going. To work with a specific niche, learn that niche inside out, and service them. Okay, so we go over and beyond for our real estate investors. You know, me and my small little real estate company. Now, why I like to work with wholesalers like Dan. Okay, one, I make commissions on almost every deal. Okay, I don't make them on every deal that we do. Okay, I don't. Dan sells a lot of his properties without me. He has a buyer list and has regular customers, but I have a chance to. But it also gives me some other abilities. But let's talk about the services I provide to Dan. Okay? One, I give a wholesaler access to the entire market, not just his buyer list. Okay? So now I'm giving also the other real estate agents who never had a chance to make a commission on these deals to actually make a commission for their buyers and find property for their buyers. Okay? So that's a service in itself that Dan doesn't necessarily, he benefits from, but so do a whole other group of people. Okay? Dan's too